And kids are much more vulnerable to the cold than adults are. And the younger they are, the more that's true. So infants can get cold much quicker than adults in the same environment. Any exposed skin is vulnerable to frostbite. Most often it occurs on the extremities like toes and fingers. It can occur in clothing and underclothing, especially if the clothing gets wet because of sweat, and kids love to run around, so their socks and the insides of their gloves can get very cold. And the other places that it occurs on kids are ears and cheeks and on the tip of their nose. And the first thing that happens when the skin is exposed to cold is that it gets really red. And that's the body sending as much blood to that area as possible to try to rewarm it. But then the capillaries in the extremities where they're exposed start to constrict. And as they constrict, the blood flow goes down and it starts to turn pale white. Then what's left, the moisture underneath, can actually freeze. And when you form ice crystals under the skin, that's called frostbite. And that can be a very serious condition. It's like a burn. First thing to do is make sure that you remove any cold clothing, particularly if it's wet. So if their socks got wet, you need to take them off. If you notice that their toes are really either blue or very white, they have to be warm very quickly. One very important thing to do, or not to do, when a child has frostbite is to rub their hands, rub their ears. That can actually cause a lot of damage. It doesn't take a very cold temperature to cause what's known as hypothermia. Hypothermia is just a very low body temperature. We often hear of it happening in cases where children have been in the water for too long, either in drowning situations or near drowning or in playing outside. Hypothermia, the body temperature is below 97. In mild hypothermia, the first thing that happens is they're shivering a lot. Okay? And that's the body's way to kind of produce heat. They could be a little bit pale, and their hands and toes can be blue, okay, because the body's trying to conserve as much core body temperature as possible. And at that point, they may feel a little bit tired, but generally are normal. They feel fine. They're just shivering a lot. When they progress to moderate hypothermia, where the temperature drops even more, then they can become a little bit either confused or a little bit sleepy, not necessarily themselves. Much paler in appearance because the body's really clamping down. They're no longer shivering because their body just isn't compensating anymore, isn't trying to produce more heat. So hypothermia can progress. When it becomes more severe, children may act very bizarre. They start to do these kind of odd things. Then you know you're in an emergency situation.